So as you may be able to tell by the fact that I have a YouTube channel on productivity, time management, high performance, personal development, etc., I am obsessed with optimizing my time. For whatever reason, I find it to be a very fun endeavor that I have undertaken, and it just helps me do more with my time, which is just a plus. And so in this video, I wanted to share with you the exact system that I use on a weekly basis to organize all my tasks and to make sure that the important things get done and that nothing falls through the cracks, and that I am in control of my day-to-day activities and not feel like I am constantly chasing the day or constantly putting out fires or constantly feeling like I'm always busy but never productive. And by the way, if you're new to this channel, my name is Jorge Calaos. I am a business lawyer based in Florida, specializing in high stakes lawsuits. And in this channel, we explore the principles and the strategies to help us live more productive, meaningful, and fulfilling lives. All right, so get ready because I'm about to divulge with you my task list system. And I want to keep this video kind of short because number one, it's a pretty simple system, and number two, I want to make sure that you watch until the very end. So the way that I manage my task list, which is just another word for to-do list, but I use the word task list because the phrase to-do list implies that you have to do these things or something bad will happen. But oftentimes the things that we have on our to-do lists don't have to get done. It's just nice if they would get done, or they're ideas that we want to explore, but they're not necessarily things that have to get done. So I use the word task list instead of to-do list because I think that it is better and healthier for the mind. So anyways, this is my task list system, and the way my task list system starts, it starts with the master task list. And the master task list is where every task goes to live. Now, this master task list is divided between categories. So for example, if I have tasks that I want to do around the house, that gets added to the house sub-task list in the master task list. If I have stuff that I want to do for content, that gets added to the content category of the master task list. And so this is the list, the piece of paper, the digital document, whatever you use to keep it in. This is the place where every task is at. Now, this is important because so many times we have an idea for something that we want to do, and we either don't write it down anywhere and we forget about it forever, or we write it down somewhere and we can't remember where we wrote it down. And so if we can put all of our tasks on a specific place, then we know if it's not there, then it never existed. And so if we're ever feeling overwhelmed thinking about the things that we have to do, and if I'm missing something, and if something's falling through the cracks, just look at the master task list. If it's not there, then you're probably good. So that's one of the best things about this master task list, is that it helps reduce anxiety and overwhelm significantly. Now, that master task list might have, dozens or maybe even hundreds of tasks, which would be incredibly overwhelming and anxiety inducing, which is what we're trying to avoid. So we take that master task list and we break it down, or at least the way I break it down is into weekly task lists and daily task lists. That's a really hard thing to say, I promise you. And so the way I do this is that every Sunday evening, or sometimes in the afternoon, depending on when I want to do it. Sometimes I even do it Friday evening because I might want the weekend to myself. But regardless, before the week starts, I take from my master task list, and I also take from last week's task list, and I create next week's task list. Now, the reason this works is for a few reasons. Number one, everything is on the master task list. So when you're making the weekly task list, you're looking at all the tasks that could, should get done. And so you know that you are prioritizing in an appropriate way. You know that you're not missing something because everything would be on that master task list. The other reason it works is because it takes the master task list, which in many cases ends up being humongous, but that's okay because that's not the one you're looking at every day. But it takes that master task list and it breaks it down into something way more manageable. And so when you sit down at your desk on Monday, you have a list of things. Okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. For that week, it breaks it down into a more digestible chunk that helps you work without feeling overwhelmed and anxious. Then another step that you can take is take from that weekly task list and create a daily task list at the beginning of every day or at the end of every day for the next day. Now, I don't necessarily always do this because I find that the weekly task list usually doesn't have that many things. I don't know if that's just because I'm working on bigger projects. If you're working on a bunch of small projects and maybe you want to update the weekly, or rather break down the weekly task lists into daily task lists. But for me, I find that most weeks I'm able to just work off the weekly task list. But even if I don't break the weekly task list down into daily task lists. I swear that's really hard. I'm trying my best. But even if I don't do that, I'm still crossing off on the weekly task list, right? And I always have the master task list there when I cross something off, and maybe it reminds me, was that a thing I was supposed to do? And then I go over here and I go, oh, okay, that doesn't actually have to get done right away. I can put that on the next week's task list, or actually, yeah, you know what? That's the next step and then I add to the weekly task list. So the idea is that the weekly task list, you're either breaking it down every single day, and so you're updating it that way, or you're just working off the weekly task list and crossing things out and maybe adding some things on that you thought at the beginning of the week were that important, and then you get through the week and they are that important, or something comes in and you have to add it in, whatever the case may be. Now, the biggest factor that goes into making this task list system work is discipline. Because if you are not disciplined about making sure that tasks go into the master task list, if you are not extremely disciplined with that, the master task list will give you anxiety instead of taking it away. Because you will see all these tasks, and if you don't trust that all the tasks that you have, come across are there, then seeing all those tasks is just going to overwhelm you, because you're just going to think, wow, there's all these tasks and I'm pretty sure I'm missing some. So that's the first kind of discipline that you have to have, is making sure that all the tasks get put on that master task list. The second discipline that you got to have, and this is more of a day-to-day overwhelm reduction, is to make sure that you go over the daily task list or the weekly task list at the end of every week and at the end of every day. Because what often happens is that you're working on a task list, you're removing things, you're adding things, and then you're just working, and you're overwhelmed because you haven't really looked at the task list in a while. It's all scratched up, and there's things crossed out, and there's things added on the margins and all this other nonsense. And so taking the 5 or 10 minutes every other day, or the 15 to 20 minutes every week, maybe not even that, maybe just 10 minutes every week, but taking the time to consistently and repeatedly and in a disciplined fashion update that task list will do wonders for you. Because oftentimes you will put something on the task list on Sunday, and you're like, okay, this has to get done this week. And then you start working and you're like, that doesn't actually have to get done on Monday. And then by the time that you're on Thursday, you're just working on a million different things, and you've forgotten about this thing that was supposed to get done. And then the week's over and you go, damn, that was supposed to get done. That didn't get done. And the reason it didn't get done is because you weren't going over your task list, your weekly task list or your daily task list, however you want to do it. You weren't going over them and you weren't updating them. And so not only do you have to go over them and update them, but what I found helps me, because I'm, when I'm writing tasks down or when I'm crossing things out, I just write them down wherever on the piece of paper. I like to take the time to, if that paper starts to get real messy and there's just chicken scratch everywhere, I like to take the time at the end of the day to convert it into a new one that actually looks a little more legible and is more pleasing on the eye, because the easier it is to read and the less chicken scratch I have to look through, the more likely it is that I'm going to actually look at that task list. And the more likely I am to look at that task list, the less likely I am to miss things that I'm supposed to do. Now, if you liked this task list system and my explanation of it, and it's something that you're going to implement and you're very excited for it, I talk about a lot of other things that I do to manage my time in this video, where I go over how I make time for everything, even as a full-time lawyer. And if you want even more resources, feel free to check out my website in the link in the description, where you can download your free copy of the 5-Step Morning Routine, a quick start guide to high performance and peace of mind. And as always, if you enjoy this content, please join the community, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, let me know what you liked and what you want to see more of. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video.